Everyone, and welcome back to this Teaching and Learning Zoom 2022 update. I wanted to use this opportunity here as the FCTL to give you an update on Zoom. As you probably know, Zoom is one of the most important teaching tools that we've used during the COVID-19 pandemic and likely into the future. I think one of the weird fringe benefits of COVID was the fact that Zoom became available and that there was a lot of emphasis placed on updating it and making sure that it could be used in educational settings. And one of the things I'll talk about today is how many things have changed since we first started using Zoom back during the pandemic, somewhere around 2019 when we first went into kind of this isolation and teaching primarily online. So I'll give you these updates today. I'll take you through some of this on the computer so that you get a sense of exactly what you're getting into if you're brand new to Zoom. So Zoom is, as you likely know, our client, our method of doing live virtual teleconferencing with other faculty and staff for Zoom meetings at the college if we're not meeting in person. And then primarily it's our platform used to deliver live interactive teaching to our students in our DE classes. Now, there is no requirement to use Zoom per se in one of your DE classes, but if you use it, you have the chance to do something highly interactive with your students. You can really customize things, you can do virtual lectures, you can have virtual live discussions, and then all of this can be recorded and saved for future use. Now, I want to mention that if you do save the likenesses, either the names or images or videos of students, technically, you cannot use those in your next class. You could use that in the current class because FERPA, the Family Educational Privacy and Rights Act that took place in the late 70s, that took hold, states that we cannot share private information of students with the public. Basically, only the students in that class and yourself as the instructor can know that those students are in that class, any personal details, etc. So if you have questions about that, I have quite a few resources here on the TNL website that talks about how to blur student likenesses, how to edit videos, etc. So that's something super important that I've actually done and helped other faculty with in the past. So if you decide to use Zoom, of course, there are quite a few things you can customize and think about in terms of features. Now, one of the first things I want to mention is if you're doing an update to Zoom, you definitely want to know how to do that. And then it's also important to know that there are two different versions of Zoom. So when I go to the web version of Zoom and I click on my meetings, and I'm going to go ahead and blur any of my personal numbers on here so people can't Zoom bomb me. You can indeed customize some settings on your Zoom.us, but really most of the practical settings, the long-term settings, are found on the internet version of Zoom. Go to your client, and your client is your version of Zoom that you have as an app on the computer, just like you do for Microsoft Word. So you see it as an actual app. If you're on a Mac, you're going to see an icon for it that is blue and has a camera in the middle. So one of the things you want to do, two things to really learn about on your client that lives on the computer, is to go to your preferences, and this will look different for every version of Zoom if you're on a Mac or PC. But go to your preferences because all of your settings for your meetings are customized here. And in fact, we're going to talk about the emojis hand gesture recognition, which is super cool. You're going to see how that works. It's one of the new features that I love. You have to have that checked on. So if there are certain things that don't work for you in Zoom, very likely it's a setting issue and you need to know how to go on to Zoom and customize those settings. So generally, most of your in-app features, your in-Zoom features are going to happen here on your client that lives on the computer, the actual program, versus the more, what I would say, the long-term settings live on the settings tab here on Zoom.us, going to the internet in your browser, Safari, Google Chrome, etc. Also, all your recordings for meetings live here if you choose to do recordings, and there's a lot of different features there as well. So it's kind of important to know where some of these things live, and unfortunately, you have to go to two different places, but it's pretty easy to learn that. So when you do updates to Zoom as well, you're going to go to your Zoom app found on the computer, and you're going to click this tab here in the top left corner. This is on a Mac. Check for updates. if you have updates that are going to be available to you, it's going to say updates available. You're on version 5.11.3. There's version 5.11.4. Okay, and then you just click it. It takes a few seconds to roll through that, and then you're ready to go. And that's important to do, because if you don't do the Zoom updates, you're not going to get the latest and greatest features. And in fact, if you ever want to figure this out, you're just going to go to Google. If you want to see what the release notes are, go to Google and type in Zoom release notes or Zoom new features, and this will pop up. When you go to, it's going to be under the heading of Zoom support release notes, and then it has it by date and product. So if you're a Mac user, click on Mac. If you're Linux, probably very few people are, click on Linux, PC, etc. So this will tell you the most recent versions. So in the newest version, some of these you may not even use. If you're not teaching in Indonesian, you don't have to worry about Indonesian language support. Support for Zoom whiteboards and webinars. If you're not hosting webinars, don't have to worry about that. But some of these are quite key. In fact, the gesture recognition that we're going to talk about is brand new, and some of these are really game-changing features. So if you don't have that current update, you're not going to have access to these features. Very important. So just make sure you do that. If you ever have any questions, you could reach out on how to update Zoom. Okay, we can also talk about some Zoom resources. So if you want to see what's come before, you can go to www.ltccteachingandlearning.com. And in the fall of 2022, actually the summer going into fall, I've done some major updates to the TNL website. You're going to find this now under the Tech tab at the top right corner there. Click on Tech, and you're going to scroll down to find the Zoom area. Once you do that, you can click on any of these pictures, and these have all of the Zoom support documents, all the Zoom support videos I've created in the past. And then below this, you have the Zoom list that is available just as a text file, which is fully accessible for screen readers, etc. So anytime you want to get my Zoom Top 10 or the Zoom, the basics, the very first Zoom training I did, I think we had like 60 or 70 people all across the campus coming to my training. And I was kind of the go-to person when we went into DE teaching and DE meetings back during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I always try to be nimble with technology. I always try to give you the latest and greatest updates. And by the way, I've heard sort of out there people saying, well, you can find all this on a Google search or all this on YouTube. That's actually completely false. You can't find these kind of customized overviews specific to education and specific to our campus. So there are some misnomers out there that everything can be found on Google or YouTube. You can find some general stuff, but you can't find the customized stuff that I'm providing to all of you through my role as FCTL. So 2022 is really the year for some of the biggest changes to Zoom. So what I want to do in this video is go through some of these changes. As usual, I have this video time indexed here on YouTube so that you can click to just the things you want to find out about. If you want to know about apps that just launch in Zoom, you could click on that. If you want to know about the whiteboard features or the gesture recognition in Zoom, you can click on that in the video. So let's go through these. This is one that I think is absolutely very cool and something super simple to set up. So these are gesture recognitions that will involve, you could raise your thumb or raise your hand. Your camera on your computer will recognize this, whether you're on a PC, a Mac, or using a phone or an iPad. It works on all of those platforms. And then it's going to automatically, as you'll see when I demo this, it's going to do the thumbs up or the raise hand emoji that tells the person running the meeting that you have a question or that you are voting thumbs up. So I want to show you how this works today. And to get this started, make sure you go to your Zoom client to enable this. So the first thing you're going to do is click on your client that lives on the computer, and then you're going to click on your preferences, and this will be under the General tab. You're going to scroll to the bottom, and this is what you want to make sure is enabled. Activate the following emojis based on hand gesture recognition. Right now, it's just waving and thumbs up. So make sure that's enabled. And then you might want to, if you're in a current Zoom meeting and you change that, you probably have to restart your version of Zoom. Okay, so let's jump into Zoom now and see how this works real time. Okay, so I'm just going to start a meeting now. And as I've mentioned on this, the only current emojis that are acceptable would be the thumbs up and the raised hand. Now, there's a couple things I read about this. I did go online and try to find some feedback from Zoom about how this works. So I've noticed that you have to hold your hand somewhat steady. This could vary by computer. And the reason for this is I think they really want to make sure that the computer can recognize what you're doing in terms of your reactions. By the way, at the bottom here, if you click on the Reactions tab, there may also be this toggle on here where you click Recognize Hand Gestures. So that's something else to note here on Zoom when you're using it live. Okay, so let's try this out. I've noted that you have to keep your hand still or your fingers still, and it seems like the leftmost or rightmost corners of the screens have worked best for me. So let's try a thumbs up. And you see it working there. Okay, and now, sorry, I gotta make sure that's in video, okay, in screen, and it is, okay. So you see here that it recognized it and then the thumbs up is there. Let's try that one more time. So I'm gonna do this, and you see it's working, so check this out. If I pull it down quickly, then that goes away. So that little timer that's going on the bottom of your screen is Zoom telling you, hey, I'm recognizing that you're doing a thumbs up. If you don't want it, put your hand down. So let's try this again. Now check that out. Okay, look, watch that. So one of the things I've noticed, if I do it in the center of the screen, it doesn't get it. Let's try the left. I heard left will work. Let me try my left hand. There's a microphone here, so the microphone might be blocking it. Let's see, let's move the microphone. And it got it, okay? So it seemed like my microphone was blocking it. And then the emoji is raised there. Now, let's go ahead and take that down. Let me try my right hand on the left side of the screen to see if it gets it. I don't think it will, because I think it recognizes like the sort of difference between your right and your left hand. So let's try the left, and indeed it got it. Okay, so now it's raised. Okay, let me try the wave now. I'm going to go use my right hand on the right side of the screen. And you see it recognized it. So I'm raising my hand, okay? And then I can click on here, if I'm a participant, lower hand. Let's try the right hand on the left side of the screen. And yeah, so it doesn't get it. You have to use your left hand on the left side of the screen. And there you see it recognizing it. Okay, that's pretty cool. We'll try it one more time. And again, I'm just trying this out with you because, again, I want to make sure it works for you in all of your meetings. And this could be really easy for your students to use in your classes. So one of the things I recommend is maybe do a short Zoom training when you first start teaching a class at the beginning of a quarter, like in the fall, so that students know this. If they don't know this, they might just do this, raise their hand back here. It actually got it that time on the right-hand side of the screen. Again, if the student doesn't know about the rule, if they put it in the middle, see, it's not going to get it. Okay. So again, whether it's your thumb or your hand, right thumb, right hand, right side of your screen, as we're looking at it, it's my right side of the screen. And then vice versa, left thumb, left side of the screen, left hand, raised hand, left side of the screen. So again, to try that again, hold it steady. And if you don't see that little thing working, if it's you doing it, of course, you'll see that. If it's a student doing that, again, I'm not testing this with two people. I'd have to see how that works as a participant. So I think that's fairly cool. That's something that you could definitely take advantage of in a meeting, just because it really adds to kind of the ease by which you can interact and your students can interact with you during a meeting. So that is gesture recognition, brand new to Zoom. Some additional in-meeting features we can look through. So I'll just take you through my screen setting here. And one of the things I wanted to mention, I'm going to actually minimize this a little bit, is that inside of Zoom, you likely have something set up that if you're doing a tutorial, like with your students or showing your class Zoom, they're not going to see certain hidden things just because of the security settings in Zoom. So likely they're not going to see some of the features down here just because there are those privacy settings. You can actually go into Zoom and turn those off for the purpose of doing tutorials. So like your first Zoom meeting where you want to teach students Zoom etiquette or how to use Zoom, go into your settings tab and turn off that feature so that you can actually have the students see everything that you're seeing now. I'm doing this via a QuickTime video screen share, so we're actually getting a recording of a recording in Zoom. So just going on the bottom here, I'm not going to go through all the features, but some of the new ones. So blur your background is new in terms of being able to do it right from your video tab. I don't particularly like it because sometimes it messes with, you'll get this kind of jagged thing because Zoom is trying to figure out exactly where your head is. So I don't love the blur my background, that's just my preference. You can also automatically do virtual backgrounds or video filters from your Zoom video tab, and then again if you want to do any avatars and look super duper silly, you can do that as well. So I can turn myself into a cow, and that's super cool, right? So yeah, I don't know if you're ever going to use that, but if you want it, it's available to you. Okay, so kind of fun and funny stuff. Security is fairly straightforward. This has been available to you. They just upped the security, so you can in meeting decide whether you want any of these features to be enabled. You can immediately lock the meeting. You could suspend participant activities. So if you have a Zoom bomber, hit lock meeting or suspend participant activities, and that way you know exactly that you can secure and lock down that meeting in real time. Nothing new really on the participants tab or chat. Share screen, we're going to get to one new feature in a second. Polls and quizzes, I think you know about. You can customize and create these ahead of time. It's pretty cool to do. You can stop your recording here. You can click on live transcripts. Again, we've already gone over reactions. We're going to talk about apps and then also whiteboards as well. This is just allowing you to say who can share on the whiteboard. So those are some in-meeting new features. We can look at whiteboard features. So one or two things really to mention on the whiteboard. One is in meeting, if you click on share screen and click on whiteboard, you can of course create a whiteboard and use it in real time with your students. Okay, so that's really handy if you want to do collaboration in real time. I'm going to stop that share. Now, one thing that is somewhat confusing, there's a second whiteboard feature, and it's not exactly the same whiteboard that's in meeting. So to look at this, you're going to go to zoom.us on your internet browser. You're going to click on My Account and click on, it says New there on the left-hand side, click on Whiteboards. And this is essentially, what I find confusing about this is it sounds like it's a whiteboard you can use online. You can use it online, but not really the same way that I just showed you the shared screen real-time whiteboard. So this is almost like, you remember that app called Jamboard that allows you to do real-time collaboration? I think what Zoom was trying to do here is create their version of it that lives online. So you can use any of these templates here. You can customize these, and you'll just click on these. And then you can go in and change any of the text that you want. So I can customize as so. And then what you can do with this is you could share it with someone. So you're going to then copy the link. And this is an internet link that appears there. Okay, now what I can do is paste this in a browser, and then that appears. Now, I think what's kind of interesting is there's different ways you can use this in real time. So again, if we did a regular screen share, shared our desktop, we can all look at this live and participate in this live because we all have that shared link. There's some other, again, whiteboards to speak of, as we know. So one of these is during a meeting, we can do screen share and then whiteboard. And that's not that whiteboard we just looked at. That's the in-time, real-time, in-meeting rather, whiteboard that you can use. Okay, so I'm going to stop that share, which was a whiteboard share. Now check this out. Bottom right-hand corner, you have a whiteboard tab. So what I could do is, these are the, if I click the arrow, this tells me my participant settings. If I click on the actual whiteboard there, the icon, choices come up. I could do a brand new one, which is going to be that whiteboard setting inside of zoom.us, not the real-time whiteboard. I can actually click on the one that I customize and type open and collaborate. If I want people to edit or view only, I can decide to do it there and then allow people to access after the meeting. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go to that actual collaborative whiteboard that's on zoom.us, and then if I want to, I could actually share that in the meeting so students can collaborate on it, which is that same way of doing it either via the link or someone's actual email or contact information inside of Zoom, like if it's a colleague at the college. So this is a little confusing. I hope that makes sense, but it's kind of the case that Zoom has different whiteboards set up, and you just kind of have to get to understand how to use each of those different whiteboards. So that's fairly different. If you don't want to use Jamboard anymore, this can be your go-to if you want to go to your Zoom account and set that up. Now, you can also do a screen share of a video now. That's kind of something new. So let's go back to our meeting as we're viewing it. And I'm going to get to this by sharing screen. Now, you probably know at any time, if you want to get all of the possible versions of sharing screen, you need to click on your Advanced tab. So right now, I only get the basics. This is found under Advanced. And this is going to be under video. So in the past, you could do the PowerPoint, and that's pretty cool actually, sharing that PowerPoint slide as a virtual background. It just puts your little head there. I like using that during class lectures and participations, discussions, etc. In the past, you could do computer audio. Now you can do video. So you're going to click on it, and then it's going to ask you from, this is not an internet video, that would be on YouTube, or wherever you go on your browser, you're going to share, and it's going to ask you immediately for an actual video on your computer. So let me find a sample of one of these. And let's see, this one's fairly big, but let's give it a shot just because it's 4 gigs, but let's see if it actually works and what happens. Okay, so it is there. And then I can customize the size of it. I'll hit play, and you see the video starts to play there. If I want to stop that, I can pause the video, stop it, and then hit stop share. So I think that's kind of cool because it allows you just to customize to watch a video in real time. I had a couple faculty last year say, I really want to do this, but I don't want to use YouTube for it. Well, this is one way to share a local video file on your computer. Now, here is the big thing that has changed that is kind of groundbreaking, I would say, for Zoom. So back 2 years or so ago, I started talking to Al Frangione, who used to be our interim director of IT, and our bond manager, and also to Jeff DeFranco, our president, and I said, hey, I just discovered that there's this new sub-account feature that is happening, and so I went to a bunch of workshops and seminars, and I got the word out to them and said, hey, we really have to make sure that this happens because this is going to be groundbreaking. And the real reason for this is the fact that we have a hosted Zoom sub-account now means we can use apps. So for a period of a year or so, the community colleges were saying at the chancellor's office, you could either go to a hosted Zoom sub-account or you could just stick with the statewide version. And then they mandated it starting in August. So we actually shifted over here in the summer. And the real reason for this, the real reason I said to Jeff and Al at the time, hey, we got to do this, is it gives us access to apps. And so what we're going to do is talk about what these apps are and how they can be really game-changing for your online DE class or meeting. So you don't have to do anything. Your apps are ready to go, so you don't have to do anything in terms of actually setting these up ahead of time, except for the fact that you might want to customize and choose apps. So all of us have access to apps inside of Zoom, and so to get started on this, you can look at your Zoom client, and actually for this, I'm just going to end the meeting so we can look at this from just asking me to convert the video, and I think hopefully it'll let me do this. Yeah, I think it will. So check this out. So go to your Zoom client that lives on your computer and click on apps right there. Now there are 2 main tabs here. One is the apps you have installed, and the other would be the Discover tab, which will be the apps to choose from. So if you don't have any apps, which is generally the case before you do this, this is actually going to be blank. If you want to manage your apps, you can click on Manage, and it'll take you to the web for this. It'll take you to marketplace.zoom.us, as you can see the URL there. Now, what's kind of cool is at this point, you can do any updates. It'll tell you if it's authorized or not. And the reason, by the way, that you're seeing whether it's authorized or not is not all Zoom apps are free. So that's one of the things to figure out. If you don't want to pay for it, obviously, then you maybe don't want to even install that. And you can easily figure that out when you're trying to configure your apps. So if you want to remove an app, for example, if I don't want, like I have this virtual note taker, AI note taker, I decided it's kind of clunky. It adds actually a second version of yourself. It says Scott's note taker has entered the room. I haven't really used it, so I'm going to remove it. I'll just click the remove tab right there. And if I want to, I don't know if I have to. I guess I'm just going to hit remove and see. And all permissions, have been revoked, and it doesn't appear any longer here. So this is kind of your go-to area where you're going to see exactly what apps are set up and then whether or not you want to continue to have those or update them, etc. Now, if I go back to, we're on the web now, if I go back to my desktop client, I can now go in and discover and manage my apps. So this is everything I have set up. And if you click on it, it'll load that app up. And then it tells you exactly what it does. It gives you information like stats, etc. So this can show you things, give you badges, etc. So I think that's kind of handy to have some of that featured with apps. So now if we click on Discover, this is where we can find whether or not we want to use apps, particular apps or not. So there are thousands of these, so you really have to think about customizing and seeking out the types of apps that you might enjoy. So what I would recommend doing is clicking on the types of tabs that maybe reflect what you're looking for. If you want something for productivity, these tend to be things like timers and meeting backgrounds and different fun things you can do in meetings. You can click on productivity. Sales is probably something you're never going to typically use. You can click on surveys and polls if you want to just find a poll or survey feature going beyond maybe what's already available within meeting polling here inside of Zoom when you launch a meeting. So in this case, you only get 4 of these. So it's not as bad as it looks. If you want something for presentations, like if you use Prezi a lot, you might want to download the Prezi one. I think that's one that works for free, just knowing that Prezi generally I think is free. Project management, there's only 1 on there. Recordings, this gets into pay versions. Like I know for sure that Rev is one that's really good for live transcription and closed captioning, but you do have to pay beyond the basic account if you want some of the top features of it. You can also click on education, etc. You can also search for apps. So if you know a particular thing you're looking for, like Quizlet, you can see, is there something for Quizlet? No result. What if I type in just quiz? Oh, I typed in actually Quizlet. Quizlet, no results. So what if I type in just quiz? No results. Interesting. Is that because I have one of these checked? No. Okay, I'm not sure. So maybe it has to be the specific name of something. Let's see if I can find something. Oh, let's try that. Let me try Kahoot. Kahoot is a really cool quiz app that I have featured. And there it is. So if you click on it, if it's already installed inside of your Zoom client, you will see that it just says open, and then you click it and it opens. If you don't have it installed, it'll ask you, and I can show you what one of these is. So I'll just click on something random called Gondola. I would click add, and then it'll add it to my Zoom. So it's very easy to do. Again, you're going to do this via your web client and also your desktop client of Zoom, kind of going back and forth. It's just another one of those things that you kind of do on Zoom. So I think the apps are really potentially game changers just in terms of possibly creating more interactivity in one of your meetings, if you're hosting a meeting for the college, for one of your committees, your governance groups, or you're teaching a DE class. Okay, so right now, let me give you some of my Zoom app recommendations. Now again, this is not something that I can just go through and show you everything. With thousands of apps, it's likely not the case that I'm going to be able to take you through every possible feature. As much as I can here, I'll show you how this works real time in the meeting. When we launch the meeting, some of these you can't necessarily do in real time. So to get started on this, I will just start a meeting, and you can see these are the ones I have installed here. So I will try to show you any of these that I possibly can in real time. If the meeting is not allowing me to do it, or if I need like a second participant, then obviously I can't necessarily show you what this looks like in real time. So let me go back to Zoom here and launch my meeting. All right, we're launching our sample meeting. Now, when you launch your meeting, you're going to find all your apps available in that new tab. So right next to whiteboards, in between your reaction emojis and whiteboards, click on apps. And then in the right-hand panel, it's going to show you, just like we've seen in a couple previous views on both versions of Zoom, it's going to show all of these under the My Apps. So these are all the current ones that I have loaded. If I want to add any new ones, I can click on Discover. Okay, and I could do that search thing. It will show me trending and so forth, and then I can actually add that in the meeting. I wouldn't typically necessarily do that, but because these tend to be small apps in terms of the space they take up running inside of Zoom, you can easily do that. These are not, processor or storage draining apps by any means. So one of the things I like, it's really like trying to create that experience of what we have on our smartphones or iPads or other devices where we have apps that we can use in real time and we can customize, and they're kind of fun, particularly if they're games and so forth. So let me show you that first one if it works, timer. What this is going to do is show a real-time meeting timer, and this could be really great for you if you're doing presentations with your students. So let's say all of your students are doing 10-minute presentations, or let's say 5-minute. All I'm going to do is click Start, and then you're getting this maybe flipped on the screen here because I have flipped my video as a feature here. But this is going to appear on the screen, and then students will be able to see it, and then that countdown tells them when the time is up, and then there's also a chime here that you can have set up. So I think that's pretty cool. I think that's one of those things that you're probably going to use if you're doing in-class presentations. And then let's see here. I just want to click that off for now. And then make sure you toggle that on and off if you want it to show up or not. So I think timer is very cool. Now Pexels is for virtual backgrounds, so let me show you what that looks like. Again, you'll find these all on Zoom, just search for it. These are just basically giving you more virtual backgrounds to choose from than you have available on Zoom. So if I want any of these, I'll just click on it, and then it should immediately change it on my screen. So yeah, if you want to use Pexels, it might be a good one to use. You can also, it's kind of cool, set a random background. And then that kind of gives you more, customization and so forth. And by the way, if you ever get stuck like in an app like this, or you want to take out the background, you can always go back to your video settings and click on None, and then it will remove that current feature from happening. So if you ever have that issue come up, you can do that. It's one quick way to reset things. I can go back to my apps. So let me just check my list here. Ask Away is an icebreaker, so we can check that one out. Again, I went through a bunch of these and tried to find some good ones that I thought would be, maybe fun or interesting for you to take advantage of. This one I think is going to be better if I had more people. So what I would do is I would copy this link, and then I would send it to people, and then it's kind of an icebreaker feature, almost like Kahoot. So that's kind of another cool one that I thought you might enjoy. So check that one out if you want to do anything like quizzes. And since I mentioned Kahoot, I can click on that. A lot of you have used Kahoot for meetings, for, I don't know, maybe creating prize giveaways if you're doing a class or something like that, or a community meeting. So I'm not going to be able to do this because we need more than one person to participate. But Kahoot is really fun, and I recommend that one for sure. Let me look at some others here. Remote HQ, this is web co-browsing. So this one could be interesting. Co-browsing means, and by the way, this is a good one to click on. If I ever are wondering, well, what exactly is this? I can actually click on the app itself and get some information from it. So this is going to allow us to participate in real time on a browser. So I click Allow on this, and then what that means is all of us at the same time are going to be surfing on a particular website, and because it's happening in real time, you could integrate it with other sites where maybe you want to do things in real time, but you don't want to have to deal with sharing a link. So this does that for you. I think it's actually really hip, and one of those things that could be super useful if you want to do real-time kind of collaboration inside of any kind of web browser. One-on-one is for meeting engagement analytics, and I think I still have that one on here. No, I think that might have been the one that I actually removed. That was maybe the recent one I removed, so I don't have one-on-one on there currently. Zoom Runes, Controller, and Mural. This would be if you're doing a lot of Zoom rooms, and this allows you to pair to those rooms, so that could be kind of cool if you want to check those out if you're doing a lot of Zoom room collaboration. We can also click on Mural, and this is for interactive meetings. I haven't tried this one out yet, but let's see what it does. And then it's not working just because I have this configured, but what Mural is, it allows you to collaborate virtually on a lot of different things, like almost that whiteboard feature that we've been looking at. So that one is, I think, kind of cool potentially too if you want another option for doing whiteboards in your meetings. And then it's saying I have an unstable internet connection, kind of interesting. Let's see if I click Share Mural. So I think that was going on. For some reason, it didn't like the internet stuff. I do have to sign in. So some of these you have to actually create an account. So I won't show you that now, but it's something else you could potentially look at if you're curious about doing in-meeting collaboration. So I think those are all the main ones. There are some additional trivia ones you could check out. There's one called And Now Trivia that I thought was cool as well. So, you know, if you want to take advantage of any of those, definitely think about going to your Zoom ahead of time and checking out the apps, customizing them, going in and discovering what exactly they are, and so forth. So that's going to be it for my app recommendations. If you have any other questions, you could reach out. I always enjoy talking to you about Zoom. I think Zoom is one of those tools that can be used really collaboratively, whether in meetings or whether in one of your online classes. So a lot to check out here in the new Zoom updates in the fall of 2022. So thanks for listening today. I'll be back with additional teaching and learning videos in the future.